In the darkest chapters of Canada's criminal history, there are victims of circumstance, and then there are victims of conscience. Singh Hayer, born in 1936, was not a mobster, not a rival gangster, but a journalist. He was a pillar of the Indo-Canadian community, a man who built an empire of words and used that empire to speak the truth about violence and terrorism. His crime was simple: refusing to stay silent. Hayer was the founder of the Indo-Canadian Times and the leading voice against the fundamentalist violence that plagued his community. His ultimate act of courage was becoming a key witness in the investigation into the deadliest act of terrorism in Canadian history, the Air India Flight 182 bombing. His commitment to justice was a sentence handed down by those who feared the light. On November 18, 1998, Singh Hayer became the first and one of the few journalists in Canadian history killed specifically for his work. His murder remains a devastating symbol of the cost of freedom and the stain of injustice. As always, my name is Cody. I run this channel with my partner Katie. Welcome or welcome back to What's the Story? A reminder, if you do find today's video interesting and informative, be sure to like and subscribe for more stories told by yours truly. Now grab a snack and a blanket and let's dive in. Singh Hayer's journey was the quintessential immigrant story, defined by hard work and an understanding of the power of communication. He arrived in Canada, worked in lumber mills, and quickly recognized the growing need for a dedicated, professional voice for the Punjabi-speaking population. In 1978, he founded the Indo-Canadian Times, a Punjabi-language weekly newspaper. It quickly grew into the largest and oldest publication of its kind in Canada, and the leading Punjabi paper across all of North America. This was more than just a local periodical. It was a lifeline. It was the central hub for news, culture, and political debate for a rapidly expanding community, distributed widely across Canada, the United States, and England. Hayer was not just the publisher. He was the editor, the heart, and the soul of the paper. He saw the newspaper's role as not just informing, but protecting the democratic values of his adopted home. He nurtured it into a powerful, influential platform, but with that influence came danger. As political tensions rose in India, extremist and separatist factions began to organize and fundraise within the Canadian diaspora. Hayer, a man devoted to peace and moderation, watched with alarm as this fundamentalist violence began to poison his community. The defining characteristic of Singh Hayer's career was his unwavering moral courage. While many others in the community's media and religious leadership chose silence or even offered tacit support out of fear, Hayer used the full weight of the Indo-Canadian Times to speak out against violent extremism. He was a vocal critic of the radical elements who were using Canadian soil to organize, raise funds, and promote violence against others. This was not a theoretical stance. This was a direct, weekly confrontation printed in the language of the extremists themselves and distributed globally. He printed editorials condemning terrorism, published the names of those he believed were instigating violence, and constantly called for law enforcement to take stronger action. By taking this stand, Hayer deliberately cast himself out of the perceived safety of neutrality. He became a target, not just for criticizing the violence, but for actively interfering with the financial and political operations of dangerous, organized terrorist cells operating in North America. He had drawn a line in the sand. On one side was democracy and rule of law. On the other was fear and intimidation. Hayer made his choice, and he knew the risk. The true test of Hayer's courage came with the deadliest aviation disaster linked to terrorism, the 1985 bombing of Air India Flight 182. The attack, which killed 329 people, was orchestrated by extremist elements based in British Columbia. For years, the investigation lagged, hampered by intimidation, witness fear, and a code of silence. But Singh Hayer possessed knowledge. He was privy to conversations and details that tied key figures in the bombing directly to the crime. He understood the moral necessity of revealing what he knew regardless of the cost. Hayer became a key witness for the prosecution. This decision transformed him from a critic into a direct threat to the most powerful and ruthless individuals in the extremist network. He had the power to dismantle their entire operation by connecting the conspiracy to the court docket. The retaliation was swift and brutal. In 1988, 3 years after the bombing, Hayer was targeted in his own home. An assassin ambushed him, shooting him multiple times. Hayer miraculously survived the attempt, but the attack left him permanently paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair. Did the paralysis silence him? No. It only amplified his determination. Despite his severe injuries, despite the constant, palpable threat to his life, Singh Hayer refused to retract his testimony. He continued to publish his newspaper, still condemning violence and still prepared to testify in court. He lived the final decade of his life as a martyr in waiting. For 10 years, Hayer continued to defy death, paralyzed but undeterred. He conducted his newspaper business from his wheelchair, his voice now louder than ever because of the price he had already paid. But the extremist threat never retreated. They had failed to kill him in 1988, but they would not fail again. Hayer was a symbol of resistance and a living, breathing liability to the Air India bombing conspirators. On November 18, 1998, just days after his 62nd birthday, the threat was finally fulfilled. As Hayer prepared to leave his garage, in the driveway of his Surrey home, he was ambushed by a gunman. The attack was swift, professional, and final. He was shot at close range, murdered just as the Air India trial approached its critical phase. The timing was not coincidental. His murder was widely viewed as a direct message intended to silence him and terrorize any other potential witnesses in the Air India case. His assassination succeeded in intimidating others, and the information he possessed was never fully presented in court. His murder remains officially unsolved. Singh Hayer's death represents a profound failure of justice and a dark moment for Canada. He was not just a victim of crime. He was a casualty in the war against terrorism, a journalist murdered on Canadian soil for the simple, fundamental act of speaking truth to power. His sacrifice and the silence that followed remains a chilling case that demands the final chapter of justice be written. Hey there! Before you take off, we'd just like to take a second and say that we really appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. Katie and I are so grateful for the incredible Case Files community, so thank you for being a part of it. If you want to help the Case Files continue to grow, one of the easiest things you can do is leave a like on this video and consider subscribing. Be sure to hit that notification bell as well and select all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. We want you to know that we truly appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much, and we hope to see you soon.